Hi, Kristen.
Yeah, all good. All right, let's call the meeting to order. I hope everybody's holiday was good. Let's jump into approving the minutes. Did everybody get to look at the minutes that were sent around? Any questions, concern?
Nope.
No? All good.
All good.
All right, why don't we vote to approve the minutes?
I would move that we accept the minutes as distributed.
Excellent. Can we have a second?
Second.
Great. Can we
I did. Who said second? I'm sorry. Kendall. Okay,
Kendall
thank
did.
you.
Let's start with all in favor? Any opposed? Excellent. Excellent.
I'll abstain because I wasn't here, but I'm sure the minutes look great, but I wasn't.
Whether or not they were accurate is another story, right?
To all of you.
Perfect. Well, why don't we jump right into the presentation on Workforce Pell?
Is Ryan on? Yeah, we're a little, maybe a little early.
Couple minutes, looks
Yeah.
like.
So maybe we can introduce Lyle while we're waiting.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Oh, yeah, I'm happy to do it.
I was looking at Jair's.
Well, happy to introduce Lyle Jepson as the Commissioner of the Department of Economic Development, who is Secretary Curley's designee to the board. And you've been on the job now 1 month? Do I have that right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And perhaps you'd like to share a little bit about your auspicious background with everybody, which is pretty great.
I don't know if it's auspicious, but I spent about 30 years in public education, including 16 as a tech center director. Probably the most exciting part, I won't tell my high school folks that I was working with how exciting the tech center was, but I think it aligns pretty well with the work that we're doing here in the Department of Labor and others. It's exciting to see some of the conversations going on right now in public education. And I think that the goals that I've reviewed that you folks have approved really align with the direction we should be going. So I'll leave it at that.
And welcome. Glad to have you.
Lyle, do you know all the folks
I
on the
know
screen?
just about everybody.
Would it be helpful to do like a brief round of
Good
intros
point.
of executive committee members?
I think it's only Jay that I don't know. I've met Representative Marcotte. I'm sorry, Jay.
Jay Ramsey, you mean, right? Not me. I'm just kidding. Well, it's nice to meet you. I'm Jay Bellows. I'm the President and CEO of Core Power and the Chairman of the Workforce Development Board. So it's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Appreciate you being on. And I think
Hello.
that.
And hello to Scott Giles, too, who just joined.
Hello.
Well, we're still a little 4 minutes ahead of schedule.
Yeah, and the next topics are bigger topics, Sabina, so I don't want to hop into, have you going through goal stuff.
If you all don't mind, I do a brief updates from the office because I have a time crunch at the end of right before 2:30, and that way I won't be cutting anything off. How does that sound?
That works.
Okay. Just briefly, updates from the office. We're working on a number of things with WIOA. The first one is that we have our one-stop MOU with required partners, which expired on June 30th. We've updated it and provided a final draft to our required partners, which about 20 of us. And we'll be meeting next week to go over any questions, comments, feedback, and all of that. And then the huge goal is to have it signed and be back with in compliance with a updated MOU by the first of the year. Our goal is to have that MOU run from January 1 of 26 through June 30th of 2027. With an eye to either updating it again or having an amendment based on progress with a new opportunity with what I'm calling Job Link 2.0 that's coming out of the Department of Labor that will allow us to do a lot more virtual coordination and referrals, et cetera. So more to come on, well, that obviously down the road, more to come on that. We're starting our work on the WIOA state plan modifications that are required and typically are due in March, and we'll see what happens with the shutdown but right now we're planning on trying to have it done by the end of March. And we've had our first kickoff meeting on that, and we'll continue. We have another meeting coming up that we're going to talk about an executive summary and highlighting all of our changes and goals, et cetera, and then dig into the meat as we go forward. And then the last thing is that we have a legislative report due on December 15th on the development of a data trust, which we've talked about before. And forgive me, Drake, did we share the final draft with them yet? We did, right?
Yeah, I think it's not like fully final. We still have some
Right.
formatting to do, but it is near final. That was shared with the agenda.
And it is up to the executive committee to that we've gotten your input, and if you have any feedback or changes you want in that will be important to have. And we did obviously consult with Agency of Digital Services as well. I don't know if anybody has any comments or feedback on that report right this second.
I'm embarrassed to say, having requested it, that I haven't read that draft. Drake, what date did you send that out? I'm so behind on email that I may have just missed
I
it.
believe it was last week with the agenda and the materials for this meeting, but I can send it around again to folks.
That's okay.
We have talked about it. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Senator.
Allison, I mean, really, we're in this small meeting. We can call ourselves. I know, really. So you sent it last week. Okay, fine. We can just search by your name. That's fine.
And I will also say, I think it was the last meeting or maybe 2 meetings ago of the executive committee where y'all got a demo of the PSEO coalition that Matt gave, which is going to, it's the recommendation of the report that Vermont Go Ahead was participating in that project, which combines census data with data from post-secondary institutions. So since we last met as a committee, there have been additional conversations with those key higher ed partners about participating in the PSEO coalition. So there's a lot of positive momentum and interest, and we'll keep you all updated on that as well.
Drake, is it PF or PS?
S is in
yeah.
Sam.
Post-secondary
Yeah.
employment opportunity.
Outcomes.
Yeah, outcomes.
Thank you. It's the
Employment
O always
opportunities.
gets me.
Got it. PSOEO. Got it. I guess my question, particularly to Mike and to Kendall, is for the three of us who served together on our favorite SOCWED. Kendall, did you, because that request for the data trust work comes out of our work. Did Mike and Kendall, did you have a chance to cruise through it, or can we discuss it as a threesome to see if it sort of fits with what we'd hoped?
Yeah, I have looked at it. And I think it's fulfilling the obligation of the statute, but it is probably worth a longer conversation because it's not a step-by-step necessarily in terms of here's how you would set up a Vermont data trust, because there's still some outstanding guardrails we would need to discuss as a state. Some of the quotes from other states have done this. It's been tens of millions of dollars. So I think the report is good. I just think that if we really want to have a data trust how-to, this isn't it.
So my question, and Mike, have you had a chance to look at it yet?
I did, not deep dive thorough, but went through it. I agree with Kendall. I think,
Okay.
I think that those pieces that going forward are some things that we will discuss in committee, and we can discuss together as well to figure out what the next moves are.
Yeah, because I think
what
the
I'm
next.
excited about it Allison, is it outlines some low-hanging fruit of things that we can be doing, like the PSEO that Drake was just saying in the interim, while we figure out resources and priorities. It outlines some things that we can keep moving forward on. So that is a piece that I thought was really well done.
Right, terrific, thanks. Because I will want to schedule the report on the report and work on next steps. And Mike and I need to figure out how we coordinate that. Great. And maybe Kendall and Mike and I could, have a little, the three of us could maybe have a little mini brainstorm on next steps and how we think that might work. And so that we can prep session with that. Thanks.
But you may have seen that Matt's online, is listening in today. So if there's any immediate questions that come up, I'm putting him on the spot.
I bet he can handle it. I'm not.
I
Was
think
there a
he
direct
can.
question there, or were you just saying? I didn't hear the direct question if there was one.
It wasn't. If
Oh, okay,
anybody
good,
had
yes.
one, that you're
Yes.
there, Dave, to answer if need be.
Of course, and I'm always here with more thought-provoking questions if anyone wants to derail a conversation. I have many.
Well, I just started derailing it, so you feel free to jump in. Maybe our threesome could expand to a foursome and to chat about some of the next steps in this data trust discussion.
Mhm.
Yep.
I think it also, in the process of drafting the report, was helpful to hear from the Agency of Digital Services about the work that they're doing across state government to kind of like weave different data systems together. There's a term they use called data lakes. I think there's a lot that's happening in different places that I think we can sort of capitalize on when it comes to workforce. And the PSEO project is among, I think, a number of options that we have as a state that don't involve massive time and huge appropriations to accomplish. So I think this will be a continued conversation for us all, which is great.
I think that Ryan was part of that big 900-person meeting.
Yes, and I just texted him and he never got a link from you, so I told him he could just grab it from my
Yes,
calendar.
okay. Do you need me to?
It's also it should be linked in the agenda too, Tiffany. I don't know if he has that. I sent the agenda around to him, but please
Well,
apologize.
he may not get your emails, Drake, if I don't.
That's a great point. That's a really good point, Tiffany.
Geez, okay, let me send it right now.
Okay.
And
Thank you for letting me know that.
I don't get bounce backs until like many days later, so I also don't know.
I wonder with you if it's a confusion around the old and new email. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand what the problem is.
Maybe we can find time to hop on the phone and do some testing.
Yeah.
I think we're all getting new email addresses. Is that right, Mike? The legislators are getting a new email address.
I don't think so. I haven't heard.
I think we are actually. People keep coming anyway. Well, more to follow. So who's?
All right.
Hi, Ruth.
It's Ruth. Hi, Ruth.
Ruth.
Were you also on the Workforce Pell call that everyone was on, Ruth?
I was not. My mom had an unexpected medical appointment this morning, so I'm just back from that.
Do you have the joy of being in Schroon Lake?
Yes, I do.
You lucky creature. Did you get
Listen there.
masses more snow over there?
About 4 inches.
No. Same as us.
Okay. Yeah, I was supposed to come home, but my mom has not been feeling well, so I'm still on that side of the lake.
Lucky you.
Definitely.
I can say with what Drake was just talking about with the data piece, so this Workforce Pell implementation meeting had all of the states represented, and data was one of course, the biggest things they were talking about. And it sounds like there are other states, of course, that are much further ahead than we are in data sharing. And so I think it's really exciting that we're on the cusp of that right at the moment. And there he is with perfect timing.
And Tiffany, that's why we explored this in our SOCWED work, in our special oversight committee on workforce expansion and development. And that is why we're doing this now. So we felt it, but we didn't have enough time to fully address it. And so here we go.
Here we go. Yep.
Here we go.
Hi,
Hey,
Ryan.
Ryan.
Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning,
And-
everyone.
Good morning.
Afternoon at this point.
Yeah. Ryan, and I don't want to butcher your title. So do you mind me asking you to do it?
Absolutely, yes. My name is Ryan DeLude. I'm the Director of Financial Aid at the Community College of Vermont, and partner with Tiffany on all things Workforce Pell as we start to think about this as CCV.
Thank you. We're gonna hand the baton to you.
All right. Great. Well, the first day back from a long holiday break is always the best, isn't it? And so here we go. So I wanted to present a little bit on Workforce Pell. I actually just got off a webinar about 20 minutes ago from New America on Workforce Pell. And to really, I'm going to sort of dip the toes into the water here for us and really introduce the Pell Grant program in general. And really, I'm hoping that this is going to be a bit of a kickoff point for next steps that we want to make as a state to figure out what our strategy is going to be and what next steps we need to do. So,
Ryan, can you make this full screen? Because otherwise I have to put my glasses on and kind of squint.
Yes, let me try to do this here. How does that work?
So,
Can you all see that?
Yes.
I can't see you at this point.
Yes.
So thank
Yeah,
you
looks
for the
good.
verbal confirmation.
It's better.
So,
It's better. Thank you.
of course. So first thing is really wanting to talk about the federal Pell Grant. And so federal Pell Grant was created with the Higher Education Act in 1965. Some of you on this call might be Pell Grant recipients in the past. I am a Pell Grant recipient in the past, and really part of the Great Society changes by President Johnson and trying to engage low-income and first-generation students in undergraduate education. And so Pell Grant program really supports those undergrad students who haven't yet earned a bachelor's degree with a lot of financial need. And really the vehicle in which the federal government determines eligibility for that is an application called the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, the FAFSA. Some of you may have heard of that. Some of you may have filled it out for your kids or have filled it out yourself in the past. And that really evaluates a financial need based upon income and household size. To look at grant usage, the maximum federal Pell Grant for this past year is $7,395. Now, when we talk about this through the lens of Workforce Pell, we're not going to be looking at that as the ceiling of how much Pell Grant that will be able to cover for those programs. But this is what it covers for certificates, associates, bachelor's degree programs today. And it's really meant to go towards any part of a student's cost of attendance, predominantly tuition fees and other educational expenses. And it's really the primary vehicle to reduce barriers and expanding access to post-secondary education, and has been for 60 years now. To just give you a little bit of context in terms of what we're looking at in Pell Grants, and these are numbers directly from federal websites nationwide back in 22-23. award year. That's the most recent data that they provide is about $27.2 billion nationwide to about 6 million recipients. And in Vermont, zooming in, we had a little over 8,000 students that received 34.6 million. And that's not just Vermont institutions. Those are Vermonters that are going even out of state to institutions. So Workforce Pell, created as part of BBBA in July of 2025. Right now, the statute says it's going to be available beginning in July of 2026. However, we have some pretty significant regulatory process that's beginning next week, actually, and will be continuing to January. That's really going to flesh out a lot of the responsibilities, a lot of the, we're hopeful, data pieces on this. So what I anticipate is that federal government will likely issue some regulation prior to July of 2026 and give states and institutions the ability to opt in for early implementation starting in July 2026, but really everything may become effective in July of 2027. Workforce Pell, it really expands short-term focus programs. So typically, an academic program needs to be a certain amount of academic credits in higher ed speak, or needs to be a certain amount of hours that a student needs to complete a program in order to receive a Pell Grant. This sort of extends the lower end of that a little bit and gives some of those short-term programs, which have predominantly been workforce-based programs historically, a chance to be able to receive that Pell Grant funding as well. Students, the programs themselves have to meet some job placement. They need to a certain amount of students have to complete those programs, and students have to earn a certain amount of wages, and they have to be delivered by institutions that are existing accredited institutions, and those are primarily higher education institutions at this point, and have to align with state in-demand industries. And really the sort of talking point is the Workforce Pell. It does support economic mobility by linking education directly to labor market needs. One thing I will point out, I see Scott's on the call right now. I will point out that Vermont has actually been a leader historically in sort of funding for workforce education, and that VSAC is actually a first in the nation grant program called the Advancement Grant. It was called the Non-Degree Grant back several years ago, but recently changed to Advancement Grant. And that really runs along the same line of the type of eligibility and the type of programs that Workforce Pell does. And so I think it's important to know on the offset that Workforce Pell is not meant to supplant the Advancement Grant program. I think they're going to be existing together for this, because the Advancement Grant program will have a much wider breadth of programs, at least initially, that will qualify for that funding. And so we need to think of these as sort of braided together in ways.
Well described.
So Workforce Pell, really we have to make sure they're aligned with short-term needs. They have to be stackable. So and what that means is that this program needs to allow learners to progress. And so they have to fit into a certificate or an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree in the future, and it has to be stackable so a student could continue their education, which makes sense because a lot of these workforce-based programs, the students are really trying to get either the job or trying to get the promotion and pieces like that. But there's also a demand for continued education throughout a lifetime. And you want to make sure that where those students start with and they get those credentials, that they're able to utilize those in the future as they build up their educational resume in the workforce. Really, the great part about this and the opportunity about this for states is really you can use Workforce Pell to really leverage and build some partnerships between community colleges, employers, training providers for responsive programs. I would add VSAC into that as well as a provider too. And then really promoting access. It increases financial aid access for underserved populations. Again, not supplanting, but supplementing with different options that students can have towards these. State responsibilities, and I probably should have put an asterisk on this slide, truthfully, because there's some that yet needs to be written. There's a sort of as yet unnamed process by which the government has to approve eligible programs in consultation with the State Workforce Development Board. States have to legislate and define how Workforce Pell will be operated, and that there's some question marks on what that exactly looks like at this point that we're hoping is going to be fleshed out a bit more with the regulatory process. There's some think tanks out there that have sort of sample legislation that they provided and other pieces. I think we have to get some questions answered truthfully to move forward on all of that. High demand occupations, we need to, the Workforce Development Board needs to make sure that the programs that we're doing are aligning with high demand occupations identified by the states. And again, it should be additive to the state's workforce strategy. There's a number of different ways that students are able to access different types of funding, and this is just one additional stream of that. Alluded to this a little bit, but the outstanding questions we really have at this point are, what's the criterion process is the governor going to use to approve eligible workforce programs? And how much is that going to be defined by the federal government? How much is that going to be up to the states and the governor to determine? What legislation or state level policy is needed for Workforce Pell? So to what degree do we need to change or modify existing statute to really address what this needs to look like? What does transparency look like? And that is in the form of data. That's in the form of what's provided to providers, what's provided to legislators and other stakeholders within the state as well. A big part of this as well, because there's data that's involved with this, is who's tracking and reporting the return on investment metrics like placement and earnings. Is that the institution? Is that the Workforce Development Board, or is that Department of Labor? Where does that residing, and what are all the structures that need to be built around that? How do institutions and states align non-credit and credit-bearing program? How do we make sure that everything is being stackable in the long run? And how do we evaluate that and potentially periodically reevaluate that to make sure it's looking like? And then, of course, the federal regulations. The first meeting of the group that's looking at this is December 8th through 12th next week, and there's another group in another time in January that this is being reviewed. Really, next steps for us at this point is requires programs to meet completion, job placement, and wage benchmarks, and that rulemaking is kicking off soon again. Really, now is the time in which we should be thinking about and collaborating on the different data systems and the different things we anticipate we're going to need in order to move forward with some of these programs in the future. Really wanting to make sure we have ways and methodologies to really promote stackable credentials as well, and wanting to make sure that we have those students that are able to come in and access these programs. But I think it's also important too, as part of a workforce strategy, to really make sure that we're making sure to know that continued education is available, and those credits are going to be available for students. That training that they've already gotten is going to count for something in the future when they continue that training. And really making sure that the strategic partnerships between the higher ed community, between the states, between employers, with reporting, between all of the different stakeholders that are going to be involved in this, are really we're really building that capacity for that, and we're building what's not just going to be is going to be something that's going to be responsive to what is inevitably going to be a first pass by the federal government of this, and no doubt there will be tweaks to this in the distant future on what the legislature, what Congress decides to do around this. So that I'm going to stop sharing right now so I can see you all again. It's really helpful to see you all again now. I didn't want to feel like I was talking into the void. Thoughts,
So,
questions?
Ryan, in terms of next steps, I'm Allison Clarkson. Hi. In terms of next steps, today is our drafting deadline request. So I didn't see on their next steps, but you mentioned earlier enabling legislation for this. So if that's a next step, Mike and I need to know about that because our deadline's today.
Yeah, I'll be honest, Allison, I don't think we're going to meet that deadline because I think there's a lot of there's a lot of blanks that need to be filled in on this, truthfully. And I will say a lot of the sort of guidelines that are out there is based upon 50 states with 50 different sort of places that they are on this.
Right.
And so some states may be further behind than Vermont on this and do require some more specific legislation around this. I don't anticipate.
It doesn't sound like that's an immediate need.
I don't think it's immediate need at this point.
Okay, great. Good.
I do think that's right. If I can, oh, sorry.
Just really quick, Scott, I was going to say maybe, Mike, have in a draft workforce bill, we can always add it to that. If we have a placeholder workforce bill in, we can add it to that. Okay, great.
If needed. Yeah. Scott, were you about to chime in?
I was only going to chime in with regard to a timing issue that I think Ryan touched on, but I thought I'd just make clear. So under normal circumstances, for a new financial aid policy to be implemented, the regulations would have to have been out by November 1 of this year in order to be implemented in July of next year. That process obviously hasn't happened. Negotiated rulemaking is taking place, as Ryan said, kind of next week or week after, I can't remember, and then in early January, from which we will get at least the Department of Education's proposals on implementation of Workforce Pell, which will give us the best picture of what it is that is likely to come at us. And then there will be the open question. My guess is that they will find a way to ignore this and say that statute requires implementation on July 1, notwithstanding the kind of general education requirement for notice and timetable. So I think we'll probably know certainly by the end of January what the outlines of any more detailed state responsibilities are, but I don't know that we'll know them before that.
I would just add, so I'm Ruth Dirk. I'm the State Director of Career Technical Education here at the Agency of Education. And 2 weeks ago, I was at an advanced CTE federal policy briefing just for state CTE directors, and their legislative staff is outstanding. And I have a direct quote from the notes I wrote, which was, states are encouraged to actively start working to make plans for Workforce Pell and not rely on federal input or guidance. It is anticipated that the upcoming rulemaking will have a very light federal touch and will leave it to states to make key determinations for implementation.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ruth. It's nice to meet you as well. I think you've talked with my wife before.
Yes, that's everything I know.
Yes,
but,
no,
it's quite current.
I really appreciate that. And I completely agree that I think we're all really, really hopeful that there's going to be a really light federal touch with this and that they're going to leave a lot of the implementation, a lot of the questions to be answered by the states in order to provide us with the maximum flexibility. This is a a world and an administration in which I'm continually surprised, and so I'm hopeful that we are gonna achieve that.
So, Ryan, and Ruth, what additional money would we be getting for this? So I would hope this would not cut into the amount we have for regular Pell grants, and instead would be additive. So I'm only excited if this is additive, not if it's going to erode the Pell, the number of students we'll be able to have on regular Pell. So that is my question for you.
Yeah, I think it's a really great question, Allison. And I think just to sort of take a step back, is the Pell Grant program, it's awarded on the student basis and it sort of follows the student. So when they fill out the FAFSA, this is sort of what they say they're eligible for, and they can utilize that at any institution that they choose to go to. And so we're not, if anything, we may see more Pell Grant eligible students. Now, we may have some students, because a student can't get a regular Pell Grant at the same time as Workforce Pell. And so you may have some students having to pick and choose which they're going to get. But I don't see us having less Pell eligible students in the long run. So I see more students having the potential to access this. In terms of funding, this is, to borrow from you, Ruth, I heard from the New America Report today, someone characterized this as an unfunded mandate to states, even if you're not ready for Workforce Pell, because there's no funding that comes with this to the states to be able to do this. And so it's really utilizing our resources to build this out further. And I will say just sort of the last piece in terms of funds for I think in terms of the Pell Grant for us, we will have some students that will be able to utilize that, but depending on the programs that we have, which, I just heard from a New Mexico Community College system that of the 65 workforce programs they have, they anticipate they may have 5 that are eligible for this Workforce Pell program. And so again, it's not going to be all of our programs, but it's going to be the ones that can fit within those definitions that are in the statute. I think we will see some good opportunity for those students.
Ryan,
Mark,
do
out
you
your
wanna-
hand raised for a while.
Ryan, do
I'm
you want
sorry?
to touch? Oh, I'm sorry. Ryan, do you want to touch at all on the student level Pell Grant app? Because this is one major policy issue that hung this idea up for a number of years.
Yes. Well, I'm going to ask you to I might phone a friend on this, Scott, so you can pitch in on this as well. But I would say too, a couple of things that have been hanging up Workforce Pell for a number of years, because there's been some bipartisan interest in this in Congress for several years now, for quite some
I
time.
hope so. I mean, if ever there was a bipartisan bill, this would be a good example.
Yeah, I think the things that really that really hung it up, one was accountability, is one wanting to make sure that the programs that are delivered are actually going to lead to positive outcomes for students, and that was on a bipartisan basis. I would say if you're to characterize it by a sort of Democratic and Republican stance, Democrats were concerned about career schools really accessing those funds and potentially abusing those. And Republicans didn't have as large of a concern of that. They really wanted to make sure that it was supplementing workforce strategies within the states. Scott, did you have any other pieces you wanted to add to that?
I was just going to touch on so one of the issues, I think, going to Allison's question was, under the Pell Grant program, as part of the accountability, there's a lifetime limit on how much Pell Grant funding an individual student can receive. And Ryan, that was the piece I wanted to touch on, was that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
No,
Sorry.
it really, one of the questions Senator Clarkson had been, would it be possible that somebody would use Workforce Pell in order to get a certificate program, but in doing that consume enough of their eligibility for the Pell Grant regular program, we'll call it that
Yeah.
you would have a student unable to complete that, whatever
Yeah.
that subsequent degree was.
Yeah. And Workforce Pell, so there's a lifetime limit of students can receive 6 years of full-time study for the federal Pell Grant. And that can go towards a certificate, associate's degree, bachelor's degree programs, but they really have 6 full-time years worth to be able to utilize that. Workforce Pell.
Wait a minute. 6
yes.
years, and then they only get $7,300 or $7,300 every year.
Every year.
Every year.
Yeah. So that's
Okay. Oh my
that's
God.
every
Thank
year.
God.
Yeah. That's every year. That's if they qualify for the maximum grant.
the
That's
max.
if they
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So that's if they qualify for the maximum grant. If they it's sort of stepped on
But-
tiers, different tiers.
But to go back to Scott's question, I mean,
Yeah.
our concern is so would the workforce Pell be on top of that? Would there be more? Or is
No.
that using up some of their Pell eligibility for
Yes.
their main course of study?
Yeah, Senator Clarkson, that's a great question, and it would go towards that 600%. We call it the 600% limit in financial aid world. It goes towards that 6 full-time year limit. But I think the key to keep in mind is that these programs are stackable. And so the idea is that if they're doing these Workforce Pell programs, all of those credits should be counting towards that next certificate, towards that next associate degree. And so
Right.
the whole prevention point for that is to make sure that students don't have lost credits every time they try to go and get a newer or higher credential, is to make sure that what they started with in Workforce Pell is going to count throughout their programs in the future. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
So I want to say there's some folks with hands up. Representative Marcotte, I want to make sure you have time to ask your question too.
Oh,
Thanks,
sorry.
Brian, I think it's a great opportunity for CCV, but I also see a possibility of having a great opportunity for adult CTE as well.
Yes.
And so I think we need to understand what we need to do in order to bring the adult side of CTE under the umbrella of either the state colleges or, we've got to figure that out. And I think we should be thinking about that during this next session.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Agreed.
really appreciate that, Representative Marcotte. And I think a really important part that Tiffany and I have been thinking about is going to be the importance of partnerships between not just CCV, but the state colleges, but, even UVM if they decide to explore this a little bit further. Really looking at the partnerships on how can we leverage some of the existing programs and resources that we're already deploying within the state for the benefit of this. I think I'm hopeful we're going to get a little bit more clarity on what their tolerance level is going to be at the federal level for those types of partnerships. My stance is that I don't think we can scale this to the degree we need to scale it without those partnerships. And so I'm hopeful the federal government is going to be open to that for us.
So Ruth, before we go to your question, Lyle has a question. We're not raising our hands in here.
Sorry. Ruth taught me everything I know about CTE, so I'm jumping into the weeds right here and getting really granular because the folks that I think we're talking about will need location-based opportunities. And that's why I really like what Mike just said about the tech centers because they're out there, they're ready to go, they're geared up. My question is going to be, who's going to determine the credit worthiness of the time that they're putting into the coursework that they're working on? Because if we look at what the Association of Builders and Contractors is doing in Winooski, and if we look at a similar program that we're beginning to talk about running in Rutland, I think we need to look at who's going to give the blessing for the credits that are stackable so that they count. because it sounds like that's going to be an issue. And I do think that getting the education to the people as opposed to expecting them, say, to go to Randolph or someplace else, I think using the tech centers is our solution. And that comes from a former tech center director, so there you go.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that's a really important point. I think on the stackability question of sort of who determines the stackability and where the credits are being accepted, I think that's really at the institutional level. So that's making sure the CCVs, the Vermont State Universities, the UVMs of the world are really working closely with that partner to articulate one for one what this sort of skill, what this course counts for in terms of courses at the institution. And so really making sure that articulation, and I would say when we get to the stage of approving programs, we're going to want that spelled out pretty clearly up front for everything. And I would imagine when we get to the time of getting federal approval for that, so we can offer Pell Grants, they're going to want to know that the due diligence has been done to make sure that stackability is ensured for the students. Yes, Ruth.
Mine sort of follows up nicely on what Lyle said. And Lyle, I think to be fair, we started in career technical education, I think in the very same year. So we learned together. So to be eligible for the Workforce Pell funds, the institution has to be eligible to receive federal financial aid, which means we have to think about that in terms of our adult CTE system connections. And then the other piece is that programs have to be between 150 and 599 hours in length and 8 to 15 weeks in length. So those are the things that are fairly well articulated. And then ultimately, the governor, in consultation with the State Workforce Development Board, is really charged with determining if a given program is eligible. So that puts a lot of opportunity I think that ties back to the original piece that was the national CTE recommendation, which is really to start our work now to really design to best meet our state's needs, and to develop the partnerships as much as possible, as proactively as possible. Because the other thing is that in order to be eligible, short-term programs to meet the criteria have to have been in existence for 1 year. So how we start defining those as soon as possible so that we've got a year-long lead in to be able to have those things we identify be eligible for Workforce Pell funding moving forward.
Yeah, not only existing for a year, but showing success to the metrics
Showing
that
success,
they've
yes,
outlined.
Showing
exactly.
success.
Yeah, which is,
Thanks,
I think, even
important.
harder. Yeah, and thanks, Ruth,
Yeah.
for those points you just made. I think the accredited institution piece and the way that you said them is the lines we're going to have to go through, because we can't have people submitting programs for approval from the governor who haven't met the first thing you said, right? It has to be an accredited institution, has to be this. So that's going to be the thing is I think that's going to be our job, is to outline what that looks like going through. Those are really good points. Thanks, Ruth.
More notes. I sent them out a little while ago, but I'm happy to make sure everybody has them from that meeting I attended. But yeah, and that whole piece too, the verified completion rate data that we're going to need to have, and verified job placement data as well.
Yeah. In case you all haven't sort of gotten this, as we're starting to do this, we're going to be sort of bolting the seats to the plane as it's going down the tarmac a little bit here. So we're going to be adapting pretty quickly as we go along.
That's a new way to say building the plane as we're flying it.
You're on mute.
Yeah,
Somebody-
I tried to find a different metaphor for it.
I like it.
As long as the plane takes off and everyone's
Yes.
safe, I don't care how we get there. We are so used to sausage. Whatever it takes, great. But we need to have this take off. It's really great. Very exciting.
And I don't know, Sabina, if this is what you're going to say, but the other good news is there are a lot of resources out there for states, right? There are folks that were just on a Workforce Pell webinar. There are a lot of organizations that have like very specific TA for institutions of higher education, for state workforce boards, for governors. So we have a lot of opportunities to plug into people who know better than we do about how to do this. and to figure out the best way to implement Workforce Pell for Vermont. So we'll keep folks updated as those conversations progress, for sure. And I know our federal delegation is also plugged into this and wanting to make sure it's successful for the state.
Briefly add that Tiffany and I are going to start talking about putting together a task force for Vermont and who should be involved in trying to figure out the implementation of all of this. There are in the original Workforce Pell guidance that came out from the feds, there were 4 or 5, maybe 6 steps that were the responsibility of the board that I think will need to be chopped up, so to speak, that certain parts of it will go to, I'm making it up, AOE or CCV, and we'll be doing the other parts. So that's all part of the strategy, bolting the seats to the plane that we have to figure out.
I also just want to highlight Scott's comment on here on the unaccredited providers, working through accredited providers. This actually, when this Workforce Pell provision went through Congress as part of the reconciliation bill, it included unaccredited providers in it and was struck down by the parliamentarian. And so they had to tweak it to include only accredited providers. And so I agree with Scott that is going to be probably an interesting discussion point on the role of those partnerships in the future. And some will undoubtedly see this as sort of a attempt at an end around to what was done for congressional intent.
Anybody else? We'll be obviously reporting back. Lots more work ahead of us.
Well, I just want to thank you all for the time. I'm happy to be a partner with you all on this moving forward as we figure this out. Again, happy to bring my wrench with me to help bolt everything to the plane. So,
Ryan, before you leave, Lyle has another question, and I also want to know if you'd be willing to share those slides so we could send it around to.
Yes, happy to do that. Yes.
Okay, great.
Seems like CCV, I'm looking at Tiffany now, already has a model around this. Whether it's, and I probably am going to be misspeaking, but the manufacturing program, the bookkeeping program, it seems like there are models already out there that could be utilized. And could instructors, say from a tech center, be hired to do some of the training through one of those models? And maybe I'm getting in the weeds again, sorry.
No, I mean, you're talking about the ones we have looked at. I mean, we're especially apprenticeship programs at both institutions, and those are 2 of our of those programs. We are looking at apprenticeship as a big piece of that, and along with some tech programs and other things. And as Ruth mentioned, we really need to be looking at as a full group what we can put into place now that can show success in time for us to be looking at it a year from now, or a year from summer. So I think there's a lot of work there, but you're right, Lyle, those are the kinds of things that we're looking at now. And I think it's important for us as a state to think as wide as we can. This isn't one of those opportunities for us to be thinking in a narrow sense. If the wider we think, the better it's gonna be that we can get programs in place that will be eligible for Workforce Pell.
Isn't there a salary or financial component to this that we have to prove that they got 6 months of salary or something?
There's an ROI, yeah.
Yeah.
The problem with, so this is something that we brought up with Sanders, is the harm to rural states with some of these pieces. And we've really tried to make some strong points where, unfortunately, in the rural states, the cost of programming versus the income somebody earns are flip-flopped compared to what they are in other states. So that is something I think we'll maybe see some in guidance, or maybe luckily won't. Maybe we'll see a wider view of that. But we have been having that discussion, and I know there's a group of us meeting with Sanders again tomorrow. They've only given us 30 minutes, so we may not get to that. But that's one of the things that we have talked about, is that ROI requirement. What does that mean? And that's another piece that circles it all the way back to Drake's comments at the beginning about our moving forward with data collecting, because we're going to have that in place in order to show that. And there's always fear around what that data can could do to the state, but I think we need to be, right there. And Matt has been really great about, being right there along with all of us as we're looking at the data to be sure that we're going to be in a good place with PSEO and other things that we're preparing for this.
Thank you very much, Ryan. This was really helpful. We appreciate you taking the time
Thank
to
you
talk
all.
to us.
Thanks,
Good
Ryan.
to see you all.
Thanks, Ryan.
Ryan, it was terrific. Great things to come.
Thank you, Senator Clarkson. Have a good one, everyone.
Take care,
You
Ryan.
too.
Thank you, Ryan. Nice job.
All right, so we should transition right into the goals, subcommittee plans, all that jazz. Drake and Sabana, do you guys want to run with that, please? I know, Sabana, you have a hard close right at 2:30, so.
Yeah, I probably will actually have to drop off a couple minutes earlier than that, so I'm gonna let Drake take the lead. I hate to tell her that.
Works for me. Maybe we can
Okay.
try to end a little early today too. Who knows?
Yeah.
So we passed round 2 of our goals at the last full board meeting, which is great. And thank you all for the work that you did to continue to refine and hone those goals. And just a lot of this is going to be kind of a repeat for y'all, but I'm just going to do some like context setting here. So the plan with those revised goal documents is that each goal would then sort of form its own or seed its own subcommittee to focus on achieving that goal, understanding that there's a lot of intersections between the 4 goals that the board approved, and that the documents, the sort of strategy documents that you all approved at the last full board meeting would give those committees a helpful frame for, what those goals mean and a starting point for them to begin their work. So the plan is that those documents will continue to evolve as committee work kicks off. And we're hoping to really get to work forming committees and scheduling meetings starting in January of next year. So the hope is to have the sort of cadence of meetings for 2026, to have the executive committee continue to meet monthly. We'll have quarterly full board meetings, and then we're hoping that each subcommittee will meet every other month. So we'll have, likely 2 committees meeting in January and then 2 in February, and to continue to follow that pattern. So that at the quarterly board meetings, there is an opportunity for committees to sort of like report out on the progress of their work and have time to make sure, the sort of intersections are discussed. Sabina and I will be participating in each of the subcommittees to help facilitate connections. The executive committee is also going to play a role in that. So that's just to give you a little bit of clarity or specifics about what our thinking is. I know this is something that we've talked about multiple times, but that's the thought process there. So following the board meeting where the goals were approved, we sent out a Microsoft form where board members can select which goals they're interested in working on to help us start to figure out who's gonna be on committees. So Ruth gets a gold star for I think being the only executive committee member to fill that out at this point. But we'll continue to follow up with folks. The holiday has happened and it's no big deal. We've heard from I think 5 board members. So we'll continue to follow up with folks to understand which goals they're interested in working on. That will then inform which committees they'll serve on. And we also have mentioned this a number of times, but we're hoping that these committees will be made up of board members and non-board members. So one of the fields in the form is asking folks, do you have any ideas of non-board members who should really be participating in these conversations? And I think the membership lists of these committees will also evolve as work gets started. So that's sort of where we are. Again, we have an executive committee that exists. There's also we have a healthcare workforce strategic plan advisory group that has been meeting, that has continued to meet. Becky Capsalis has been participating in that group. Betsy Hassan has been participating in that group. And then we're thinking we'll have these additional 4 committees around key priority sectors, adult reengagement, business expansion and relocation, and graduate retention, post-secondary graduate retention. And want to just open up a conversation with this group about how folks feel about that plan, any suggestions, questions, comments, ideas.
Thank you.
Great. I think we may want to think about the people that have served on the State Workforce Development Board in the past, especially the immediate board. There's a lot of people there that didn't make it on the board, but that I think would be more than happy to serve on these subcommittees. So I think it'd be a good idea to reach out to them.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. I imagine once we get to sort of scheduling these initial meetings, they'll probably have similar agendas. And I think one agenda item should be, who else should be a part of this conversation. So I think as the committees get stood up, they'll probably be a little bit smaller at first and then grow based on, the membership and continuing to articulate and hone in on what the work will be. Because there's a lot of opportunity for and potential work for all these committees to do. And I think there is sort of an order of operations to address that will happen in those virtual rooms, which will be great.
Drake, do you have thoughts around a collaboration space? I know we've struggled with Teams because each of us has a separate Teams instance for whether we're at the state or we're at the state colleges or we're wherever. Do you have ideas around that? I mean, I can just see the incredible overwhelm with email and things like that if we don't have spaces for collaboration when it comes to all these committees.
That is a fabulous point. And yes, we need to think about that. If folks have different tools or methods that have really worked well or not worked well, please let us know so that we can make sure we're moving in the right direction. But yeah, we're definitely going to need spaces for things to live and collaborate for sure.
Well, and we always have the State House. We have, and if we're wanting to meet in person, and for those of us who prefer Zoom, many of us have Zoom accounts we can use, so it's not difficult. I think just it would be great to get. So I'd love to continue to work on Goal 2 on the Goal 2 committee, and I would hope lots of the people who served on it are willing to continue that together. And it would be great for those of you who really know the workforce world to suggest and invite the right people to join us. I'm looking at Tiffany and Mike and Jay and Ruth in particular, who worked on that with us.
Happy to contribute in whatever way makes sense.
That's sort of like a lukewarm volunteer.
You volunteered already
enthusiasm.
on my form I submitted, so.
Ruth, did you channel the Goal 2 committee?
I did. I did.
Woohoo! Right. Good.
And when I know who else has volunteered, I thought about who I might then suggest, but we'll see.
Okay.
Great. Another thing that we're working on at the office is Sabina and I want to do some one-on-one check-ins with as many board members as possible this month, because we see each other frequently on the executive committee team, but there are a number of folks who haven't engaged in meetings outside of the full board meetings. So I think we're hoping that will be a really helpful opportunity to just check in with folks about how things are going and what they'd like to work on. And for folks who haven't filled that form out indicating interest in specific goals, we can have that conversation. So we'll do some recruiting and cheerleading for the work, and hopefully that will inform like the initial lists for committees that again will be added to as I think that the initial groups meet and figure out who else should be at the table.
How's your website going? Because I would think Ryan's Ryan's Workforce Pell report and presentation should be on your website. And I was thinking the other board members, the other state workforce development board members might really enjoy seeing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the reason I had asked Ryan to send it is I'm planning to post it along with the minutes. And also we can send that around to the full board too, to let them know about what the executive committee heard about, because I agree. Allison, that makes a lot of sense.
And the recording.
That would be great. So what is our website looking like?
It is, there's a lot of opportunity for improvement on our website, but you can access agendas and minutes and recordings.
So what's it listed under? Where do we find it? Under Department of Labor?
I can do links to the web pages. No, the Office of Workforce Strategy and Development has its own website, which
that's what I thought.
Maybe Sabina can put in the chat, because so there's definitely work that we have started and are in the planning phases of to make some pretty substantial updates to the website, because there is definitely some outdated information there. But you can access the website to find information about meetings of the executive committee and the full board. And it will just keep getting better as time goes by.
We assume it's a workforce opportunity to help make it better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And with, the inventory of different training and education programs that we've all talked about a number of times that the office is responsible for, we're planning to have that live on this website as well when it's ready. So
I bet we have a CTE student who could get that website in order, in shape, amazingly well in a short order.
That would be wonderful.
Be up to whether they get permissions or not.
It would be a great internship opportunity.
Yes, I agree. We would love to work with an intern on our website.
Well, maybe Ruth or Jay has an idea about the CTE program director who has a great kind of graphic design.
We have great
team.
We have great programs. I mean, I don't know who the best would be, but certainly each CTE center has a work-based learning coordinator who helps find those internship opportunities, and we could certainly let you get in touch with them.
That's a great idea, to use our own workforce network to help you, Drake and Sabina.
Jeremy White, who serves on the board, is in that role at his center. So
let's start with Jared. Maybe Jared could. Oh, he's Lamoille?
Jeremy.
No.
Jeremy is at Riverbend in Bradford.
At Bradford, that's right.
Thank you for that suggestion. I think that is a really good point, and something that we can explore for sure.
We have the resources right here on this screen.
Great. Does anyone else have any thoughts about that plan for goal-based subcommittees and work that Sabina and I will do in the next month to start to lay out our initial membership list and get some meetings scheduled?
No, but I think as you meet with people, Drake, on one-on-one on the large group, you're going to get a lot of input to that. I think it's going to help guide you for sure in that.
I'm not worried at all about that.
Yeah, you'll get a lot of opinions.
Great. Which is great. That's what
it is great
makes
for sure.
So effective, right?
All right. Are we all set with that then? Drake, you good?
I think so. Thank you all. And folks, we'll send that form around. I know, this group is already committed monthly to this board, but folks who want to participate in subcommittee work, we really would love to have you, especially, Allison, you mentioned, there was a lot of work that this group did to really refine and articulate these goals. So we want to make sure there's a place at the table for you all to participate in subcommittee work. And Sabina and I will do our best to make that as meaningful as possible for folks, or as simple as possible as well. So
All the above.
Yeah, both for sure. Yeah.
And reach out to us if you want to talk one-on-one about this. We'll be sending emails to all of you to have, one-on-one check-ins. You can tell us no, thank you. But I think it's important to have those opportunities to really speak in a small group about, how things are going, what you're excited to work on in 2026. And sometimes it's harder to do that in, a bigger group setting. So just appreciate all of your work, and we're excited to get committees up and running. I think it'll be really great to take that next step as a board.
Excellent. Thank you, Jake. Sabina, you want to talk about dates for full board meetings for 2026?
I don't have them up in front of me. Huh?
Oh,
We
that's
talked,
okay.
yeah, we, shoot. You remember what they are offhand, Drake? I thought we
Sure
were
don't.
maybe send it around. I think we're gonna have to probably send it around, Jay, my
It
apologies.
might be better anyway, so everybody can kind of look at their calendars and see what works, and
Yeah,
that's probably better anyway.
we had 2 different dates for February, 2 different dates for late May, June, 2 different dates for September-ish timeframe, and then in December. That you
Okay.
could pick between,
So-
yeah.
So Mike and I have a plea. I'm going to plea for Mike and me. We're good on Mondays, but for
Yes.
the next 5 months,
Yes.
we are
Yes.
pumpkins during the rest of the week.
Yes.
So unless it's later in the afternoon or evening, and I'm not sure Mike would be enthusiastic about that.
I think
but,
I actually picked all Mondays.
Oh, great. Okay,
Yeah.
terrific. Thanks.
Yeah, I am very well aware of your schedule demands.
Yeah, I mean, and it's only,
Yeah.
we can shift after June. I mean,
Yeah.
after May, we're
Yep.
shiftable. But we're sort of stuck on that.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, I'm a little more flexible than you are, Allison. I mean, I could,
Is that
I have-
generally true?
I-
Maybe.
well, I have 10 other people in my committee, so,
Oh, this
so
is true.
I can always get off for an hour or two if I need to.
23?
Different quorum demands.
Yeah, that's the minus of the Senate, is we all sort of have to be there.
Yeah. For quorums, right.
So anyway, that's all so are we done?
I mean,
have to-
are there any other updates, Sabina? Wasn't sure if you'd finished your, are you all set?
Okay, yep, just to take a adjournment, I guess, vote.
Okay. Well, first, is there anything anyone else wants to discuss? Silence? All right. So do we do?
I will say,
Yeah.
we won't schedule a meeting the Monday after Thanksgiving again. I can promise that now.
Well, it's fine. Are you kidding? We're the most rested we're going to be for the next damn 6 months. So this
Good
is,
point.
you're getting us at our best.
I love
Speak
it.
for yourself, Senator Clarkson. Speak for yourself.
Oh, come on. Jay, aren't you well fed? Aren't you happy? Didn't you have a great last 4 days? I hope you did.
It was good. Yeah, no, it was good. It was good. A lot of work
bet
though.
not-
God.
It's always a lot of work.
Yeah, see?
But
was-
that
but
isn't-
good. But
So
good.
it's Christmas, but that doesn't mean it's not great.
Yeah, but Christmas I can become 10 again and it's wonderful.
Oh, well, that's true.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yes. That's true. I bet none of the rest of you were red tagged though during the course of your holiday.
What's
means
that?
We
What
have
was
no
that?
heat is what it means.
I won't let her use her fuel tank.
So
What?
Drake, I don't have your text because I was going to text you about something. I don't have your contact info. I don't
Okay,
think
I'll
I
send-
have your cell phone or anything.
I'll fix that soon. shortly.
Thanks. If you could, I think you have me, and if not, Kendall has me. So
Yep.
if you'd be kind of, and Lyle, I don't have you either.
Well,
And
we'll
given
the
we're
three of
going to
us
be
will
in
figure it out in
direct-
here.
We're going to be working so closely together. That would be great. Thanks. Kendall has Mike and me.
Great.
And yeah. So anyone who can figure out how to put time and staff into my Christmas stocking, that's all I'm requesting.
That's easy. That's easy, right?
Right. Thought so. Anyway, so if we are done, thank you. This
We
is
have to
great.
vote.
Yeah.
Oh, we have to
let's
vote
get
on
a
something?
motion to adjourn. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I will
So
move
moved.
that we adjourn.
Excellent.
Second.
Can I get a second? Excellent. Perfect.
Right.
All in favor?
I
Excellent. Any
I don't get to
opposed?
vote.
thank you.
Perfect.
This was
Perfect.
great.
Thank you,
And
everybody.
thank you, team State Workforce Development. You're doing a great job. This is the most productive we have been in so long. It's great.
Thank you.
All right.
Well done.
Happy holidays, y'all.
Take
Great.
care.
Thanks,
Yeah,
everybody.
bye.
Take care.
Enjoy.
Bye.
See you next year.
Yes, if not before.